Hi, this is Anne Rowley. I'm here at the Dahliafilms studios with director Jack Bennett. Jack is the co-chair of the Beloit International Film Festival taking place February 17th through the 20th in Beloit, Wisconsin. Thanks for having me here, Jack.
Thank you.
Let's jump right in.
Let's do it.
First and foremost, how did you get started in film?
How did I get started in film? Well, it's really hard to answer. There are a lot of things throughout being young that I did that sort of prelude to this, but I really got serious about it in college, of course, in Los Angeles. I was a theater major, big surprise, and I got to know a lot of the behind-the-scenes guys, a lot of the tech guys on the theater scene. And one sound guy also did film editing for PBS and Discovery Channel and things like that. I got to know him pretty well, and he brought me on as his editing assistant, cutting B-reel, you know, stuff like topless villagers running around and lava flows and incredibly boring stuff, just cutting it together. But I ate it up. I couldn't get enough. I would be down in his basement editing room for hours and hours and hours and come out and realize, oh, it's sunlight. I should be at school. So pretty soon school became B-reel and editing became the thing to do. I just got more and more into the production side of filmmaking, and here we are today.
Yeah. Did you always know you wanted to work in film?
Yes and no. Again, growing up, I was a really shy kid, and I think that sort of introspection that came from that was really good for me as a filmmaker in the future. You know, while the other kids would be out playing ball and things like that, I would be hanging out in my grandfather's store watching the customers. He had a little coffee shop, and watching all these much older people, you know, and the way they interacted in their world, so smooth, so fluid, so comfortable in their world. And I think, you know, I think I'm still looking for that being comfortable in my world, and someday I'll maybe find it. Someday. Searching for adulthood.
Yeah.
I'll never find that, but whatever. But I think that definitely gave me an idea of like how people work. And then it was just a matter of figuring out what medium to show the way in which I see the world. And that perfect medium for me is film.
Well, I understand that you're from Chopir. So growing up here, was there anyone locally that inspired you to go into film?
Surely. Really, there were a lot of people, you know. I mean, as I said before, a little bit of everybody. To pin it down to a person, it would have to be my grandmother. She had all of this Super 8 material from the 50s, 60s, whatever, back in her closet, and we would dig that out occasionally, and old films of my dad's prom from the 50s, or just anything and everything, and we would cut it together. And she taught me the crudest, simplest form of editing that I ever learned. But she also taught me storytelling, being able to visually tell a story. And she was great at that. You know, from being down in the store and just talking to people constantly, she could make anybody understand her point of view, her view of the world, instantly. And she was a brilliant lady. So I would say that, yeah, my grandmother brought me into the film world.
What film do you have showing at BIFF 2011?
BIFF this year I have 2 shows in. The first is a short called Atlas. It's directed by myself and a friend of mine in Seattle, David Hannigan, also a pretty brilliant guy. It deals with, we'll say, the nature of sound, that is, being of sound mind, and also how we perceive and use sounds in our lives. It's a quirky, fun, weird little picture, as you might expect from me, but it is fun. It's one that I can watch again and again and still, you know, still enjoy. The other picture I have showing is a feature film. It played at Sundance last year and had some record-breaking crowds at the showings. It was a pretty good show. Directed by Linus Phillips. I was a producer on it, and it's a road movie. We traveled across the country from Washington to New York, shooting all the way. And it's sort of a story of a guy trying to find himself by trying to lose himself. And by the end of the picture, he really has sort of realized what's important to him and what's important to life. And it's a beautiful picture. Consequently, on Bass Ackwards, some of the shots, we did take some shots in and around Beloit, so look around for local scenery that you may recognize. I think Turtle Creek made it in there for sure,
Great.
and a couple of other things. The other point I'll make about the two of them is I do make a cameo in both of them. Very small, but if you pay attention, you just might see my mug somewhere in these movies.
Okay, we'll have to look for that.
Yes, do.
What do you most look forward to at BIFF 2011?
It's a tough question, really, because it's a film festival. We're there to see films, and that certainly is something that I'm looking forward to. There are going to be some great, great films, and there will be some great ones that I don't make it to, I'm sure, just because of scheduling. But really, every time I go to BIFF, my favorite thing is the people. I look forward to the people at BIFF, the people around BIFF. It's a rare experience as a filmmaker to go to a film festival and to have that much interaction with the people who have seen your films, and to talk with them and to really just humanize yourself and humanize them, and they can tell you they love you, and they can tell you they hate you, and they can tell you why. And it's just an absolutely beautiful thing to be able to connect and really, live your life as a filmmaker for 4 wonderful days. Yeah.
Is there a particular filmmaker who inspires you?
Yes, Orson Welles. Orson Welles is from Kenosha, Wisconsin, in case you didn't know.
I didn't.
So we've got that going for us, he and I. But really, Orson Welles, arguably one of the fathers of American independent cinema, a guy who did it his way, never took no for an answer, no holds barred. If it's good for my film, it's going in my film one way or another. Brilliant guy. The other side of Orson Welles, I was watching, again, an old interview with Orson Welles the other day, and he's talking about filmmaking, and he's talking about his life, and at one point he says, filmmaking is 98% hustling and 2% making films. A little tear comes to his eye. I could have done something so much better with my life. And to hear Orson Welles say that is scary. I think about that every day, that Orson Welles felt that way about filmmaking, and I have to find some way to circumvent that. And my way is, A, I'm never going to give up, and B, I'm never going to grow up. I'm going to be a kid having fun my entire life.
So what is your most memorable moment as a filmmaker?
Most memorable moment as a filmmaker, there are a lot of them. As a filmmaker, you have a very odd life, really. It's like being a kid. No, it's like being a cartoon character. You find yourself in the most absurd situations, and you figure out how to deal with them. I know things like how to suture a wound on somebody, or target shooting. I could probably fly a plane if you put me inside of one. And, you pick this stuff up in the course of making films. A good example, and probably my favorite story about filmmaking, is we built this 8-foot by 8-foot sugar glass window in my studio. And the idea was to put it on this 3-story rooftop and throw a guy through it for a shot that we needed. Horribly dangerous stuff. Nobody knew exactly what they were doing, but we did our best. So we get out there to shoot it, and the actor is just gung-ho. He's in it. He's like, yeah, let me jump through this window, a new experience, woo! Meanwhile, the rest of the cast, the crew, myself, we're just biting our nails and smoking cigarettes, and our hands are shaking, sweaty everywhere. And we get to the moment when we're going to shoot this thing. Everybody's got their fingers crossed. The actor runs at it, dives through the window, and glass everywhere. All these sparkling hunks of sugar glass dancing in the light and against the night sky. And he goes over the edge. And we all just take a breath. And we walk up to the edge. And he waves up at us. Everything's fine. The guy lived. It's perfect. So you learn how to do things like that. You learn 100 ways to kill a guy and 101 ways not to. And you always hope that you're ahead of the curve on that one. So it's a thrill a minute. It's the best thing ever.
Well, do you have any advice for aspiring filmmakers?
Yes. Get out. Run. No, not at all. That's a ridiculous thing to say. My advice for aspiring filmmakers is to try it. If you have any inkling of filmmaking, try it. You are going to fail your first time, or at least you're going to feel you failed your first time. You're probably going to waste a whole bunch of your money, and you're going to get better at it as you go. And if it's in you, you'll stick with it, and you'll keep going. And at some point, you are going to transcend the material that you're working with. And you will find yourself somewhere inside of your head in a deep, deep blackness where there's just all these stars around you, and they're ideas, and you can just grab them and take them with you. And that is the most beautiful feeling ever. It's the feeling that you are exactly where you're supposed to be, and you're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Not everybody's going to experience that, but if you go into filmmaking, I hope you do.
It's really big. As far as the arts go, what do you work on outside of film?
I have a drawer locked over there full of poetry that no one will ever read. It's dreadful, dreadful stuff, but I enjoy it. I don't think I draw a distinction between art and life. I live the art life, for whatever that means. I do paintings, and I'll spend a day or two painting, and then I'll burn the work when I'm done.
Oh, that's terrible.
No, it's not. The work is terrible.
Oh.
The burning of it is cathartic. It feels wonderful to do something and to get rid of it because it's inadequate in some way. But it all leads up to filmmaking. It's all just a different way of telling the story of my world the way I see it. And so yeah, that's my art life.
And what do you have planned after BIFF?
It's big. After BIFF, I leave BIFF on a plane, I jump in a taxi, I come to the studio, and we start shooting on a little thing called Hotel. Hotel, as you might imagine, takes place in a hotel. And it's sort of a look at the moment between life and death. That is, when you're asked to make a choice between remaining in the darkness or to walk along that hallway towards the light, and the question of what exactly that means, and a million other questions too. What are the things that you do in your life and the thought processes in your life that will make making that decision, that correct decision, more difficult? It's pretty heavy, but it also has a very, very beautiful ending that I think will connect with a lot of people. I can't wait to see it myself.
I'm excited to see it.
And of course that one segues into a feature film that we're planning on shooting this coming summer and into the fall, that I'm not going to give a whole lot away on, but it deals with a love triangle gone horribly awry, and sort of gone that way through the nihilism of youth. I'm being obtuse, but just wait till you see it. It's going to knock a lot of socks off. It's pretty brilliant stuff.
Yeah, looking forward to that.
So am I.
Well, Jack, thanks for taking the time to talk with me.
Sure.
Parting question, where are you heading right now?
Right now, I'm off to a production meeting on Hotel. Really exciting stuff. Drink a lot of coffee. Talk. Filmmaking is 98% talking and 2% filmmaking. But, yeah, nonetheless, a boring meeting.
Well, thanks for your time with me. It's nice to meet you.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks.